Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream. For all of you who are new, I do these live streams regularly to open the space up for the community and for more in-depth talk and analysis. If you are someone who prefers shorter videos, I also have regular videos on my channel. So you can go on my video tab and check all of my regular videos. However, if you prefer more in-depth talk, these live streams are for you. And again, welcome to all of my community. Welcome to all of my members, subscribers, and viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream where we will be trying to understand what's going on, read between the lines, see where things are going. And tonight I want to talk to you about Yemen, primarily. I posted a video earlier on with a few details about Gaza, Lebanon, and this reckless escalation from the United States against Russia. So if you want, you can go ahead and watch that after this live stream. And in this live stream, my main intention is to elaborate further on what's happening when it comes to Yemen. Elizabeth, thank you so much. I already have a super. Thank you so much for that, Elizabeth. Much appreciated. And I will obviously open the space up for the community and all of your participation after we speak about the topic for tonight. Obviously, we had an unprecedented attack from Israel yesterday on civilian infrastructure in Yemen. Israel attacked their oil, their electricity, and we have reports about 6 people killed and over 50 wounded. There were not many voices in the Arab world sympathizing with Yemen. Imagine the shameful state that we're in, from official Arab governments, by the way. The only fierce responses that we had were obviously from the resistance groups, and we had Oman taking a good position. Oman are known for that. But, Arab states next to Yemen, we condemn, or something light. Imagine the level. Hiding their happiness, by the way. Some of them are happy. Some of them are happy that Gaza's being targeted, by the way. Let's not forget that. Shameful state of affairs. But we had multiple statements coming out. I'm gonna let you know a bit more about the statements coming out from Yemen, from Israel, and I will talk in more detail about the speech of Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the leader of obviously Ansarullah, and what that included. So we had multiple statements from multiple representatives in Ansarullah saying very similar things. We are continuing our actions against Israel and standing with the Palestinian people. Nothing will deter us from taking this moral position of standing with the Palestinian people. They're not even playing on this victimhood. It's burning. We will not stop. This is what they're saying. These people of principles, people of morals. We had also Israel stating a couple of things, but one of the most important things that I heard from Israel was someone very close to Benjamin Netanyahu. They try as much as possible to hide the identity, but it was leaked to the media in Israel. Someone most likely from the cabinet. Why? Because he was in the meetings where they discussed the retaliation, and it's only a very small cabinet meeting. Even if you're talking about the extended cabinet. He told Netanyahu to avoid attacking Yemen. He asked Netanyahu, do not attack Yemen. We do not need that now. We do not need that now. So we had a report in one of the reports, obviously, because there were several of them. One of them was in the Israeli newspaper Ma'ariv, saying that Netanyahu approved the attack in Yemen despite strong opposition from a senior Israeli official. According to Channel 13's revelation, the decision to launch an attack in Yemen was made after an Israeli official expressed strong opposition in the Prime Minister's deliberations. The Prime Minister heard his words, did not accept his position, and allowed him to voice his opinion in the cabinet, which was not accepted. That's a very senior figure. A very, very senior figure. They did not want to state who they are because they didn't want to cause even more problems. They continued, according to the publication, one of the officials said, the Houthis do not stand on their own. To go against Iran and not Yemen, it is unnecessary to open another front. His opinion was not accepted. So he's saying if you go against the Houthis, you're going against Iran. You're going against Iran. Then they obviously went out with this attack. And what they're trying to do is obviously include Iran as much as possible. Include Iran as much as possible and say as if it's the Houthis following orders from Iran, which is something that the Ansarullah leader stated in his speech. So, in his speech, I'm going to read a few things from his speech, kind of the key highlights to understand their position, obviously, and where things are going. So, he confirmed a couple of things. Number one, that we entered phase 5. We're no longer in phase 4. Now we're in phase 5. This is a new phase, and the Battle of Haifa is going to continue. They're calling it the Battle of Haifa. Tel Aviv is not a safe zone. No-go zone to Ansarullah, telling everyone avoid Tel Aviv or occupied Haifa. They called their drone Haifa, named after the original name of the main city in the region, obviously Haifa. So one report said, the leader of Ansarullah, Sayyid Abdul Malik al-Houthi, confirmed that, quote, the Zionist force has eroded and all the formations that Americans used to surround the entity to protect it have failed. Their deterrence eroded and the formations that the Americans are using to surround the entity and protect it have failed. The aggression against Yemen will not benefit the enemy at all or provide it with deterrence and will not prevent us from continuing the 5th stage of escalation to support Gaza. So not only are they not deterred, they're escalating. That's very important. If the raids, attacks, and the targeting of civilian facilities in our country had any impact on our dear people, the raids by America's agent over the past 10 continuous years would have affected them. And he's calling obviously Saudi Arabia Americans' agents and whoever fought alongside the Saudi government in Yemen. He continued, the raid on our country were carried out with American bombs, as is the case in Palestine, to target civilian facilities and civilians. The targeting of our country by Saudi Arabia with American supervision and American contribution has not stopped, and our people have not changed their choice, their decision, or their adherence to the Palestinian cause. Our dear people will not be affected and will not back down from their position, decision, and choice. They have raised the banner of struggle or jihad to support the Palestinian people. The Israeli enemy will not possess deterrence and will not regain it against the support operations from our country, and the results will be more escalation and more targeting. He added, developing capabilities and capacities and adapting to the level of the challenge will continue, as was the case with the start of the American-British aggression on Yemen. The capabilities of our armed forces have developed more and more, and our operations are becoming stronger and more effective. And the result was the involvement of the Americans and British without achieving their declared goal. The Israeli aggression against our country will contribute to escalating our operations against it further and developing our capabilities as well. And the enemy will lose and bring upon itself more risks. The Israelis who are usurping Palestine must fear and worry more than ever and realize that their foolish leaders are bringing upon themselves more and more risks. He stressed that we are very happy with the direct battle between us and the Israeli enemy, as well as the US, because their policy was to fight us through agents, adding, the American and Israeli were paying the role of supervision, guidance, presenting operations, and reaping money and profits in exchange for their aggressive and criminal positions. Al-Houthi added, for the battle to be direct with the Americans and Israelis is a very big failure for the agents, and their statements show the extent of their foolishness and anger. He's most likely referring to, obviously, Saudi Arabia and the people who are allied to them in Yemen. Some expressed in their statements their insistence on continuing the fight against the Yemeni people to show the extent of the bitterness and feeling of failure. The agents are exposed at this stage more than ever with their pro-Israeli positions and expression of extreme hostility towards our people. One of the most important benefits of the events and their results is the manifestations that reveal and expose people for who they really are. With the Israeli enemy entering into direct aggression against our country, it is an opportunity to know who is the hypocrite who hates our people and shows himself to be enlisted to serve the Israelis. Some condemned the aggression in a polite manner, followed by an expression of intense hostility with the same Israeli logic in describing the Yemeni position. The Yemeni position is clear. Our position is clear. We are fighting a holy battle, not a futile one. Whoever doubts our position should do the same or more. Repeating the logic of the Israeli enemy describing our position of our dear people reveals the extent of treason, betrayal, and subservience to this enemy. He also added, talking about any position supporting the Palestinian people as being for Iran is Israeli logic. He's criticizing the people who are claiming that Yemen is acting on behalf of Iran. There are a lot of people who talk about that as if these movements have no independence whatsoever. And although Iran undeniably supports these people, and that's a noble position for Iran and something that serves Iran as well, you're talking about people with independent views and independent positions. Iran has its own policy, but Iran has a moral policy that it's been taking ever since the revolution in 1979 in supporting the Palestinian cause and supporting some of the movements in the region. They obviously have their own policies as well, but they do that and they pay the price. Iran does that and pays the price. And Yemen is an example of a country, of a movement that is indeed supported by Iran. However, they have their own actions. As a matter of fact, Hamas, who started this operation, Al-Aqsa Flood, on the 7th of October, they didn't inform Iran, their biggest backer. They didn't inform Hezbollah, their closest ally. They didn't inform anyone, but they asked them to participate. And they participated. Each side with their own capacity. So he's saying, obviously, Al-Houthi, talking about any position supporting the Palestinian people as being for Iran is an Israeli logic, and whoever says that is an agent of the Israelis and is insulting the Palestinian people. He's insulting the Palestinian people. He stressed that the Yemeni people are an honorable and in just position that raises heads high and makes faces white in this world and in the hereafter, stressing that the issue of the Palestinian people is realistic is just, and its echo has filled the corners of the earth, and no one who has turned into a parrot for the enemy can cover this truth. We are happy that today's battle is direct between us and the enemy, and we have been happy since the beginning for the support with the direct confrontation against the US and the UK, stressing that the Israeli enemy got involved and was unable to maintain the strategy of isolating the Palestinian people and their mujahideen or strugglers, and the battle was preoccupied here and there. He also continued talking about the cooperation between the resistance fronts. So, many people, when we have a certain escalation, one of the fronts will say, okay, who's going to get involved next? Are we going to see an escalation? If Israel goes on all-out war with Hezbollah, will Iran immediately go in? Will the Iraqi resistance join in? What will Hamas do if they have a ceasefire but Israel escalates with Lebanon? What's going to happen with Yemen if Israel goes on all-out war and it's not just a one-off? Because what Israel did is very complicated. It's not like something they can do on a daily basis. It's a long-range attack. And they wanted something symbolic. What can they do it on a daily basis? Yemen can launch a missile, 2, 3, 10, 20. Drones, cheap. Reduce the warhead, increase the fuel, send it. Longer distance, dodge here and there, low altitude, whatever it is. But Israel, dozens of fighter jets and refueling and this and that. It's a complicated thing. With the cooperation front, he stated that the cooperation between us and the rest of the support fronts is close and strong, and there is coordination that is developing more and more, and it has its fruits and importance in thwarting the enemy's pressure on it. The axis are the axis of Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem, and it revolves around the injustice of the Palestinian people and the holy sites. The Al-Aqsa axis front is to support and back the Palestinian people. And this is the correct position that the entire nation should take. The Americans and the Israelis are trying to distract the Arabs and Muslims from caring about the Palestinian issue and drown everyone in other problems and conflicts. Now, he's obviously stating that about the Arab and Muslim world. Globally, they're doing that with each country respectively with the suitable recipe. Problems, causes, artificially generated nonsense. Al-Houthi also added, thanks to God and despite all the conspiracies, there is now a strong front to support the Palestinian people with fighting, money, media, and everything. In coordination with the struggle axis, were useful in serving the Palestinian cause and in strengthening the general position against the Israeli enemy. Strengthening the position against the Israeli enemy. He also supported the position of the Grand Mufti of Oman, who showed solidarity, and obviously again called for more nations to take a stronger position when it comes to the attacks on Yemen or any Arab state. And he obviously hailed the people who are supporting the Yemeni cause, the Palestinian cause, and supporting Yemen against their attacks. I'll check because obviously it was a long speech. I'm just going to highlight if there were any other potential quotes that are relevant to bring your attention before we wrap it up and obviously open the space up for the community. One important thing is that the fact that the Iraqi resistance, okay, he's talking about the joint path of the Iraqi resistance. So in recent months, we saw a lot of joint attacks coming up from Yemen and Iraq. He highlighted the importance of this front and saying that it's showing support for the Palestinian cause and is very influential in the battle. Because so far, when we had the reaction from Yemen after the Israeli attack, they obviously said that we will hit Israel hard and we will continue targeting them. The initial reaction was ballistic missiles on Eilat. Israel claimed that they took them down with their Arrow 3 air defense system. There wasn't a lot of evidence to show that. We just saw an Arrow 3 flying. According to Israel, they took it down before reaching Israeli territory. Could be. But again, we haven't seen solid evidence that they actually successfully took down that missile. With regards to phase 5, he added, in the 5th phase, through the blessed Yafa operation, we moved towards using a new weapon. The Yafa aircraft or drone is an advanced drone with clear capabilities on the tactical and technical level and has a long range and good destructive power that surpasses any other aircraft. We left it to our brothers in the Palestinian resistance to choose the name of the plane that targeted the enemy's administrative depth, and they named it Yafa. The arrival of Yafa plane as a major administrative center of the enemy entity was disturbing to it and is considered a new equation and a new stage. A new equation and a new stage. So he's saying that the Palestinians named it after that. You see, they're coordinating very well with the Palestinian resistance, by the way. And one point, if you recall, the Houthis took control over a ship that was linked with Israel, and they told the Palestinian resistance, it's your choice what to do. Tell us what you want us to do. Look at the level of coordination and the level of communication as well. Because we were sold the lie previously, primarily from Israel, they're secluded in Gaza. And they're not doing not having any communication. And then again, they did a 180. And then Israel started reporting that Yahya Sinwar from the tunnels in Gaza is controlling everything to do with the negotiations. They go from one thing to another, the complete opposite, as if they've done nothing. As if they've done nothing. He continued that the new escalation, the new phase, and the targeting of Yafa in Tel Aviv, the drone, the breach had an impact on the Israeli enemy, and the danger, anxiety, and threat reached the depths of the entity. That's something very true, because the responses that we had from Israel and from the Israeli society, and obviously Israel is trying to censor a lot of these things, was that there was a lot of panic. It was similar to when we had the Iran attack. The Iran attack was the most terrifying to the Israeli public, let that be known. There was complete horror in Israel when Iran attacked, because it was monitored. They told them it's going to happen. They were saying everyone but what Ansarullah did was obviously exceptionally affecting Israel and the Israeli population. He also added that it's made in Yemen, produced by Yemenis. Some people said it was Samad 3, the Iranian one, and Ansarullah. Ahmadi said it's fully made in Yemen. And he finished off with a couple of quotes. Some of the most important ones were, the danger has arrived and the threat will continue, God willing, in Tel Aviv, and the new equation clearly indicates the complete failure of all of the protectors of the Israeli enemy and its agents. He also said, the Americans, the British, the European allies, their Arab agents failed to prevent the threat from reaching the enemy entity. The Israelis found themselves in a real predicament and a serious problem, and facing a new equation that has a great impact on them. These were the main highlights from the main person who we were interested in monitoring and what he has to say, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the leader of Ansarullah, or known as the Houthi movement. Clearly, the man is very determined. He's not fazed. He's not taken aback. They have a lot of self-confidence. Although Israel caused a lot of destruction with this attack yesterday, they're still escalating and still having an escalatory tone. Again, going back to their population, the will of their population, and the core principle of supporting the Palestinian cause. And again, not playing on this victimhood. Oh, look, they attacked us. And they're not even talking about Israel attacking them that much. They're just focusing on Gaza. Different caliber, different level. And this is what I want to share with you. Let me open the space up for all of the community to participate and open the live chat as well. Again, if you're new, welcome to our live stream, and you can participate obviously with the community and direct any questions you have for me. Apologies in advance if I might miss some of your comments. Just usually we have a lot of ongoing comments in the live stream. And Elizabeth Holloway, Heidi Dickens, Nasra H, Koopa Koop, Lime Fruit, Lisa Onofre, thank you very much for your super. Thanks. Much appreciated. And thanks a lot for your support. And Sumera, thank you so much for your super. Let's see if we also have any questions. If you wouldn't mind highlighting, obviously, any comments for me so I can reach them directly. Napweed, thank you so much as well for your super. You're saying that when are the United States and Israel going to realize that the resistance and their bullying can't be dealt with even greater bullying? It's an outmoded colonialist concept that no longer works. That is on the point, my friend. That's 100% accurate, very relevant. Thank you so much for your super, and thanks for the question. Well, see, that's the thing. They started to realize it bit by bit. However, usually, even if there is a level of realization, there is a will to protect it by any shape or form. Brainwashing the population, selling it out as if it's a necessity, selling it out as if it's a security necessity, as if it's a strategic necessity, all colonialist, all greed, all you're occupying, you're squatting other territories and you have nothing to do with the people. Arrogance, racism, supremacy, it's all based on that. Bit by bit, these things are failing, but they're trying to keep something alive, right? The colonialists, the people with the colonialist mindset, that we have the moral high ground, we reach the top of civilization, history ended. Some people believe that, and obviously believe that other nations are below them and are inferior to them. But with the struggle, they start to realize. Why? Because it starts becoming untenable. And no matter how much you talk, if these people, these greedy, psychopathic lunatics who are in power, are not faced with resistance, are not faced with criticism, no one is challenging them, they don't change. And that's the nature of things. So long as you don't have a confrontation, there is no change. When there's a confrontation, they try and shut it down. When the confrontation becomes too big, things become untenable, things start to change. And this is what we're seeing, not just in Gaza, but across the world as well. And Hanan Y as well, thank you so much for your super, much appreciated. You said Yemen did a reverse UNO with the leaflets dropped on Tel Aviv warning them to go south for their safety. I actually haven't heard that. It would be interesting. See if you have a link, if you wouldn't mind sending it to me. Alok D. Kabir saying, Assalamu alaikum Mahmoud wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He said, what was the root of Houthi attack on Israel through Chad? Hard to believe. Listen, the people who reported that the route was Chad were officials from Egypt. Officials from Egypt, they have an interest to say that it was from Chad. To avoid, again, getting into, and Egypt likes to keep everything under the ground. This is what Egypt does. So there was an Egyptian, he's one of the main military analysts who was obviously had senior positions in the military, Faraj, something Faraj. He said that Liwa Samir Faraj, right? Samir Faraj, his name. He said that the route was there. Now, there's likelihood that that would have exceeded 2,000 kilometers, unless, Yemen, it's technically can happen, but they need a lot of modifications to the drones so it can reach that level. We had reports that they decreased the level of a warhead so that they can fuel it more and has more range. The video that was shown showed the drone going down the coast, so down south, unless obviously they took a direct line west to east from Chad or from Egypt or from wherever they reached, and then when they got closer to the target they went down south and then went east again. But again, they targeted what they wanted to target. That's the main thing, and it's impressive. And it took Israel by surprise, and they had no clue. And don't believe the people who tell you, oh no, we knew, but there was a man-made error, right? A human error in intercepting it. They didn't have a clue. Clearly, they were very, very sophisticated with attack. Mind over matter. Hi, Mahmoud. If Harris gets elected, do you think Palestine will be better off than if Trump gets elected? Well, Harris has been with Genocide Joe. If you have a problem with the concept of genocide, would you have anything to do with the government that is the main culprit when it comes to genocide? I'm sitting there as a vice president, and the president is supporting a genocide and legitimizing it. And I'm sitting there. And she had statements. And mind you, they'll obviously change the tone later on and start telling you, yeah, civilians in Israel, please do that. And it was just sending everything. You're enabling them. I believe they're just as bad as each other. Again, if anyone wants an alternative, it's not the pair. Neither Harris nor Trump. They have a record. If you care about this cause, you know what I mean? They have a record. Trump caused a lot of damage when he was there. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He caused a lot of unnecessary bloodshed because of that. Innocent people died for no reason. He has a very bigoted tone, very racist tone, Donald Trump. No matter what you say, very racist tone. Telling Joe Biden, you speak like a Palestinian, that's racist. That's bigoted. That's abhorrent racism. And his general tone against immigrants and foreigners and ugly. So I don't trust both of them. And I think the alternatives should be given a chance. People who at least didn't have a track record of supporting genocide. And Daniela Modis Qatar, thank you so much for your super. And Marvin Burgess, thank you so much. And Jay Abdul Malik, thank you so much for your super. Marvin is saying US media trying to say Trump attack and Iran connect. BS. Of course, BS. Iran. Iran want to go and attack. Would you, unless they want to legitimize now going and attacking Iran or going on an all-out war with Iran. Unless that's what they want to do. And he has been very hostile and ignorant when it comes to Iran. The previous US administration, obviously, they had a deal. They started to improve relations. They had more understanding when it comes to the nuclear project and what have you. And then he came with this approach that was serving the Zionists. People telling me America first and make America great again. He's a puppet too. Who is he getting money from? Can he say one bad word about Israel, Donald Trump? He's nothing. He's under their boot. So obviously, anything they'll publish, you'll see it connected with the Zionists. But again, that's the thing. Some people they start supporting people to a level where they become blind, and you can't really do that in politics. You really can't do that in politics. If you want to talk objectively about a person, criticize them, and see what they do. Now you saw many people having the same bandage on their ear, like Donald Trump. What is that? Is this some kind of a cult or something? And he's keeping it for so long now, as if it's like a... Right? And welcome to everyone. Greetings as well. Jack Ayub saying, sorry, brother Mahmoud, I haven't been online. My grandmother passed away Thursday night. All of my condolences to you, my friend, and your family, Jack Ayub. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God the Almighty, have mercy on her and on all of the deceased. And of course, not a problem, my friend. And good to see you back again. Kate is saying, on the 11th hour, Milikovsky still playing games before his departure. You're right. To the USA, sending his negotiators to Doha. I think UAE team are in cahoots with Milikovsky, delaying or faking this negotiation. You're right about that. He delayed the trip by a day, and there is this approval to send a delegation to Doha after Netanyahu previously confirmed that he will not be continuing now, we will not be reaching a deal up until he goes to the United States. That's a very interesting observation from Kate. That could have been US pressure, by the way. That could have been US pressure, as if, show. Because again, in the US, they care about themselves. The politicians, It's not like they... But I wouldn't be surprised if Benjamin Netanyahu received a call and he was ordered to continue, or else... Because his meeting with Biden is still not confirmed, by the way. His meeting with Biden is still not confirmed, let alone the fact that they do not want to release certain information before his departure or arrival. They haven't confirmed where he's going to stay. He still had two options. Technically, in Israel, you need to choose the cheaper one. But he hasn't confirmed it. Why? Because people are going to be waiting for him, I'm sure. And Nasra H, thank you so much for your super. You're saying... all my comments have been rejected. I had to edit multiple times. This is what it is. Congratulations, Mahmoud, and thank you. MashaAllah. Thank you so much, dear Nasra. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I get a lot of that. And I get a lot of people getting unsubscribed. And usually, as it states in my guidelines, I would advise people when it comes to comments to refrain from using, any language that might be deemed offensive. However, even with that, there are comments that are completely normal that disappear. Why? Because they include a certain name, or they're coming from a certain person. And mind you, there are trolls. There are armies of trolls, hasbara cockroaches, I call them, or other cockroaches who operate and serve someone else, like little dogs on leashes. Cockroaches is more suitable for them. And they report everyone. They start reporting everything. They'll report the channel, they'll report the people, they'll report everything. An army of cockroaches serving the hasbara. They have rooms, they call them war rooms. They sit down, right? Every Zionist name you can think of, and they'll be David, and they will be Muhammad, and they will be Edward. They will be everyone, acting as if there are more many nations, right? And they'll be reporting you and reporting this and reporting that. They're pathetic. Israel spending billions on this. That's people's full-time job. In Israel, there's people working in a full-time job, trolling, reporting, working as a hasbara cockroach online. Violet is saying from Omar, did you hear ISIS declare the war against Hamas? ISIS is an organization formed by Western intelligence agencies. The United States, the UK, Israel, every agency has something to do with ISIS. There are agencies with more active. The main person who maliciously labels himself Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, right, to give a bad name to the Honorable Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa, peace be upon him, has a different name. He had a special status in Iraq, right? He was in a US prison in Iraq. He was a US prisoner in Iraq, and he had a special status. Ibrahim Awad, his name is. Calls himself Abu Bakr al-Badri. Ibrahim Awad Ali al-Badri. This man had a special status in US prisons in Iraq. All of a sudden, we see him getting released. One of the most dangerous people released. He gets released and he has this power, and they're occupying territories and their necks and whatever it is, and under the banner of Islam. Clear operation. Your worst enemy is doing that with agents. Obviously, it's a couple of brainwashed idiots who will participate, of course. You know, all nations are blessed with brainwashed idiots, aren't they? And that's what you'll have. So that's why they were established ISIS, to kill Muslims. To kill Muslims, to kill Arabs, to kill ethnic communities, to cause divisions and stir fitna. That's what they're. Did they attack US bases? Did they attack Israel? No. That's what they're there for. This is America's jihad, America's version, right, of jihad, ISIS. They create ISIS, they feed ISIS, they love ISIS. Tom Foolery, thank you so much for your super. You're saying everything power says are lies. Lies to cover those lies. We are living in the same time, in the time of action to save or suffer, the same as Palestinians. Free Palestine. Thank you so much for your contribution, Tom, and for your comment. Let's see. Mar-a-Lago, is Russia arming Houthis? There are reports that they're arming Houthis. There are weapons that are being used by Hezbollah that go back to Russia. Obviously, that's much easier there. I think they have an interest in arming Ansarullah. I wouldn't be surprised if Ansarullah have surprises. because Russia sees it in the grand scheme of things. Russia is seeing it in the grand scheme of things. You support people against me, I'm going to support everyone against you. And they're trying to revive the anti-imperial countries now. Putin had a visit in not just Yemen, in the world, Cuba, Venezuela. He went to North Korea, he signed a treaty with North Korea even. So they have an interest in these anti-US movements being powerful. Because obviously with the big players, it's like a chess game. Francis Fitzgerald, were the pilots Ukrainian or American who crossed in to Russian airspace? I would highly doubt they would be Ukrainian. They would most likely be American. I would highly doubt the US giving them this bomber and allowing them to it was the US, and the Russian declaration is the US. Marvin Burgess, regarding Tel Aviv attack, do you think original target was the U.S. Embassy, just missed in a hidden apartment building? Well, it was in a street that has several embassies. The U.S. Embassy was reported to be very close. However, we had mixed reports with the type of casualties, because the Israeli security establishment, they use civilian buildings sometimes to carry out certain operations. They will be in a civilian environment. Now, we have had a track record of the resistance tracking such activities, primarily Hezbollah. I mean, Hezbollah excelled when it comes to monitoring Israel and where they are. Houthis, Ansarullah, they could have the same level of intelligence. So it could be that, but then again, the mixed reports about the man. We had someone saying engineering corps, one IDF sniper. Israel is saying he was just a civilian. However, someone was killed. The level of Israeli response does not signal that you're talking about a civilian. They try and sell it out as if, if a civilian is killed, we will retaliate. You're killing your own civilians, you liar. You genocidal liar. You're killing your own civilians in Gaza. You bombed your civilians who were kidnapped on the 7th of October. You slaughtered Israeli revelers on the 7th of October. In the Nova Festival in Kibbutz Be'eri in Ra'im and Nir Oz, you pathological liar. And then he'll tell you, because it's an Israeli that we went to Yemen and carried out this operation. Lying. Hyper-pathological liars. They kill and slaughter their own people, and they'll act like they're fighting and going. The level of attack signals it was important people. And it was a strategic place. That's why they were so urgent when it comes to the response. Irene Z, thank you for that. I haven't really looked into that too much to obviously provide an opinion on it. Marvin, regarding 7 October Hannibal directive and killing by IDF, not a peep in US media. What about UK, Europe, any mention? Well, obviously everything will be covered up. The mainstream media was already prepped. They were prepared. So Israel was armed with a barrage of misinformation, lies, deception, and propaganda, and spread it out immediately. 40 beheaded babies, they raped our women, they da. And they sold it, obviously, internally and externally. All of a sudden, everyone believes everything from Israel immediately. It's on the headlines. 40 beheaded babies, no scrutiny, no nothing. No Israel says, right? Like the Hamas says, or the Hamas says, or the Hamas ministry in Gaza says, right? To undermine what they're saying. No, 40 beheaded babies. Hamas killed them immediately, to a level where Biden himself had to take it back. Israelis took it back. Some of the Israelis who said it took it back. But the effect worked, and this is what they want. Effect. Brainwashing the imbeciles. So they post them, all of a sudden, everything is plastered. Hey, everyone believe what's... and UK? Well, UK media. Well, Rupert Murdoch controls the media here. Likewise in many countries too. Media that belongs to big power, and they're like that. Although Israel provides so much evidence, by the way, you know how much evidence there was released from Israel? The footage from the planes slaughtering Israelis. Witnesses, dozens of witnesses, survivors of the 7th of October, was the army who killed us. Prisoners in Gaza who were released. We were targeted multiple times by the army, 3, 4, 5 times, as if they were targeting us, they'll tell you. Then, pilots coming out, we were ordered to shoot at everything going back to Gaza. That's after several lies, by the way. Initially, they said there was no chain of command. We had a WhatsApp group. We were chatting on how to attack. And then all of a sudden, you have an Israeli pilot confirming to the residents of Nir Oz, which is an Israeli settlement that was attacked on the 7th of October, that we were ordered to shoot at everything going to Gaza. Everything going to Gaza. Meaning they killed over 50 in the first month, Israelis, and so far Israel killed a third of its prisoners in Gaza. Is that because they care about them? They don't care about anything. Paul Ambrose, Mahmoud is Yemen attacking Israel as we speak. Well, let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'm not seeing anything personally. But, I mean, like I said, Abdul Malik al-Houthi said, it's a front without red lines. No red lines, meaning there are no rules for the confrontation. There are no rules for the confrontation. But Israel's preparing. So I haven't heard that they just now carried out an attack. However, Israel is preparing very heavily for an attack. Kate, if Hez used the same strategy like the IDF targeting Israeli infrastructure, then say the opposite. Do you think the war will end? Then say oopsie. Do you think the war will end? Look, with the level of escalation with them, it's not something that can go like that. They already target both civilian infrastructure and army bases, but They're not targeting the very strategic civilian infrastructure yet, Hezbollah. Why? Because they know it's going to be destruction here and there. But this is what everyone needs to understand. If either side, either Hezbollah or Israel, start attacking strategic places, the other side will be burning too. That's the equation. Both parties understand that. That's why, even with the escalation, they're not going all out so far. Like if Israel will target the electric power stations in Lebanon or strategic locations, Hezbollah sent them. They told them, look what we have. And it's not something that can end like that, because Hezbollah obviously participated as a supporting front. They did it for reasons that were declared. We're supporting the people of Gaza, and we will stop immediately if there's a ceasefire. You don't even need to talk to us. It was Israel that continued to escalate after that. They said, even if we have a ceasefire in Gaza, we will treat Lebanon differently. It's a different front. Hoping that they can reach some sort of an equation in Gaza and then go all out with Lebanon. But obviously, hardly anyone agrees on anything in Israel. Rifat Azad saying, Mahmoud, in future less from what the Zionists saying, more from the resistance speeches, please. Look, you have to establish what both parties are saying to get an understanding. Although it might be agonizing sometimes. But you have to listen to everyone. You have to listen, you have to tell people what everyone's saying. Although 90% of some people's talk are lies, but you need to understand, to elaborate. Some words can be used and contextualized. You can read between the lines with certain statements. You cannot avoid hearing both sides, whether you like it or not. That's the recipe to be ignorant. That's why they banned the Russian media in the West. Because they don't want you to listen to those. No, we need to listen to Israel. We need to listen to the Israeli leaders. We need to listen to the Israeli population. We need to listen to Netanyahu and the people who oppose him to understand what's happening. If I'm not going to listen to them, how am I going to know what's happening with them? You have to read exactly what's happening with them. Let's go to your next question. Let's open the live here as well. Kate, Mahmoud, does release hostages meaning Israel is no Palestinians? Well, the common language and terminology used when it comes to the Israeli prisoners in Gaza is hostages. But Palestinians, although many of them are under administrative detention, meaning kidnapped literally with no right for anything, and they get killed and brutally tortured in prison and raped and starved to death. They're only called the Israelis hostages because they're a difference in human beings, you understand? To them, obviously. To them, to those who report, there's a difference between human beings. The Israelis are here as human beings, the Palestinians are. So the Israelis are hostages and they're... but the Palestinians, we don't know. Are there prisoners? They won't say. Talk to me about the fact that we had 6,000 Palestinians imprisoned in Israel ever since before the 7th of October. Now there's over 20,000. More than triple the number. They don't talk about these facts. Deliberately tortured and killed. The man who's in charge of them orders the wardens to torture them and kill them. But the mainstream media wouldn't talk about that. Whereas the Israelis and Israel has the capability to feed them, to keep them safe. They have the facilities, they have everything. But in Gaza, where they're barely struggling to get anything, they go out and they seem like they're fine. It shows you the difference in the Palestinian resistance and the IOF and how they treat prisoners, people who are not directly involved. And even if they were involved, prisoner of war is prisoner. You can't start torturing prisoners like that. But again, Israel learned. They learned from the United States, from Guantanamo. They have lessons from other countries who commit torture. Ismail Lami said, Habib Mahmoud, I fear that Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia and Egypt, start being hostile towards Yemen. What do you think? I'm Egyptian and I would hate that. Sadly, we are not represented. I think they're likely to be met with hostility from Saudi Arabia, probably the UAE, obviously, too. Egypt, I don't think the Egyptian government is interested in a lot of escalation with Ansarullah. Why? Because they don't want more problems. The government relies heavily on the Suez Canal. They had underlying criticisms of Ansarullah, although again, with the Egyptian diplomacy in general, when it comes to the government, there's many layers. They'll tell you the bare minimum. Even when it comes to Ansarullah or America or Israel, they won't say a lot. But there were underlying criticisms of Yemen and the fact that the Suez Canal and the trade is suffering because of Ansarullah's action. Not that they obviously deliberately targeted the trade, but as a consequence of their embargo on Israel. So Egypt definitely wants to see this end as a government. I don't think they want to take a hostile position with Yemen. If they wanted to, they would have joined the coalition. Listen, you need to understand something. The United States with the genocide coalition, who went with this genocide coalition? Well, the United States and the UK. Who else? The other countries, they sent like a representative or something. Italy, Greece, or whatever. Nothing. They're not active. The people who are active are the US and the UK. Don't you think they asked all of the governments in the area? They asked Egypt. They asked Saudi Arabia. They asked Ethiopia. They asked Eritrea. They asked all of them to participate in the genocide coalition against Yemen. All of them refused. Why? Because they don't want this problem. And they don't want to face repercussions. So they came. Again, and that's normal. Normal, perfectly normal. Western countries coming to the Middle East to dictate what happens. Typical arrogance, neo-colonialism, and you name it, the list goes on. So I don't think they have an interest to do that. But Saudi Arabia they are taking a hostile position, and I'm not sure how much. Clearly, there's a lot of leverage from the United States still on Saudi Arabia, although we have seen a slight shift when it comes to Saudi Arabia. Tashikam is saying, is it true that Saudi helped Diaper Force attack Hodeidah? The reports that we heard from Israel, again, so 2 bowls of salt and 2 bowls of extra spicy pepper, not just a pinch of salt. They said that the Saudis knew. They said that the Saudis knew. Did they know? Was it coordinated? That's what Israel said. Kate saying, has targeted a new settlement, IDF base in Hanita. Can you elaborate on the location? Why is the settlement? That's not the first time they target Hanita. They target Hanita multiple times before. As a matter of fact, it's one of the bases that they target regularly, Hezbollah, and it's one of the bases in the confrontation line in the northern part of Israel. The new locations that they added are settlements that are outside of the confrontation zone. Now, this confrontation zone has been expanding, by the way. So Hezbollah initially, they declared that we are conducting attacks against Israeli bases, radars, surveillance systems in areas that are 3 to 5 kilometers away from the southern Lebanese borders. Other reports said from 3 to 7 kilometers away. Obviously, Israel evacuated people who are up to 5 kilometers away, if I'm not mistaken. So anyone that's 5.5 kilometers away did not receive compensation, didn't get housing, didn't get anything, nothing whatsoever, and they need to stay there. Or if they want to go out, it'll be at their own expense. But that distance has been expanding. That distance has been expanding since then, and now they are getting new settlements in the equation. And let's go to the next one. Gulliberg is saying a fire has broken out in Tel Aviv. I didn't hear about that. What now? Where? Dana Doe is saying, I'm late. Did we already talk about the invaders lifting restrictions on drones in the West Bank? They have done things in the West Bank in the past 10 months that they haven't done for 20 years, ever since their last big operation in the West Bank. And there are calls from the main ministers in the government, like the finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, to make parts of the West Bank look like Gaza. They want to destroy the West Bank. They will always have this genocidal approach. They want to ethnically cleanse the population of the West Bank. Golden Sun, thank you so much for your super. He said, hello from A2 Michigan. Appreciate your insight. Hello back to you and everyone in Michigan. And thank you so much for your comment and your support and your super. Much appreciated. And that looks like this was the last one. Oh, David. Sorry, that wasn't highlighted. That's why I didn't see it. David Post. Do you think the F-35s flew from an American aircraft carrier? No, because the Ansarullah forced out the Eisenhower, USS Eisenhower. Ansarullah on their own, the Houthis. They forced Eisenhower out. So, no, they were from Israel, and we had evidence that they're from Israel. And Israelis took videos of the fighter jets and the refueling plane going from Israel. The thing that wasn't very clear is, were they F-15s, all of them, were they only F-35s? There were mixed reports. I think it could have been a combination of F-35s and F-15s. And the fact that you had refueling along the way signals that all of that is from Israel. Obviously coordinated with the United States, however, obviously. But not from U.S. aircraft carrier, because the United States, they wouldn't want that on them. And that was it. Okay, we'll wrap it up there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream. Many thanks to all of our members, subscribers, and viewers. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everyone who participated. Thank you for everyone who also sent super thanks. Much appreciated. Elizabeth Holloway, Heidi Dickens, Nasra H, Koopa Coop Lime Fruit, Lisa Onofre, Sumera, Napweed, Hanan Y, Daniela Modus Cutter, Marvin Vergus, J. Abdul Malik, Nasra H, Tom Foley, Golden, Sun. Thank you so much for your support. Much appreciated. Everyone else, thank you so much for your contribution. Apologies, obviously, if I missed some of your comments. However, I'm here hopefully with you regularly. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week ahead. Have a blessed week ahead. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone.